buildings to be developed, to be occupied, sorry, until we have actually fixed the infrastructure, because the sewerage system just doesn't have the capacity to cope. You know, this, unfortunately, the way our crazy planning system works in this country, it's that in itself will not stop the planning application, because what will happen will be, if it was approved, Thames Water would be given probably 3 years just to catch up. You know, given 3 years to fix it and make sure the sewage capacity, the sewerage system has capacity. Well, you know, would you put money on Thames Water being able to do that? We wouldn't know the sort of problem. I mean, you know, there's some very good people in Thames Water. They come to the Flood Forum here. They're excellent people, but you know, that company is really, really up against it. And so actually one shouldn't, again, our argument would be, it would be completely irresponsible to approve a development of this scale, given the high level of risk that the infrastructure improvements will not happen. Okay, flood risk. This is not my area of expertise, and we have Caroline here, whose area of expertise it is, and no doubt we've got back. Oh, what's happened? Have we missed number 6? Did we miss number 6? No, we did. Have we done 6? Okay, 7. Thank you. You know, we all know the area floods regularly, and if you look at the flood risk map, the government's own map, it will show that risk increasing in future. We think that the case that the developer has made is very weak. It doesn't demonstrate satisfactorily that the flood risk will not increase in future. And you know, the national policy and local plan policy is very clear that you should not undertake development that is going to increase that risk. Now, unfortunately, you may have seen articles in the press, and there's one today actually saying a scary proportion of new homes in this country have been built in high flood risk areas. You know, we're sort of going crazy, really, building homes where there's a high probability they will get flooded. But it doesn't mean that we can't and shouldn't make the argument that this is the reason for not building on this one. And the same for drainage and of course, you know, much as that everyone would like to keep the sewerage system separate from the surface water drainage system, if you get really, really heavy rain, where does the rain go? A lot of it ends up in the sewers, and that just sort of compounds the problem. So there's two separate sets of risks really about flooding and drainage. And then we come on to wildlife and habitats. And you know, we all know that area is relatively untouched. There's only one little bit of it that's ever had anything built on it, apart from the allotments. And you know, most of it is just a wildlife haven. And the fact that we can't access it is sometimes held up, oh well, you're all going to be able to access it in future. But actually that's not good news from a wildlife point of view. It's not good news from an ancient woodland point of view either. And it's ancient woodland because it's been left alone and untouched. And if you open up the area, all the advantages of that wildlife and biodiversity are going to be lost. Now, as I mentioned before, there are special provisions where a site is close to a special protection area, in our case, the Thames Basin Heaths Special Protection Area, more fondly known as the Ranges. And if they're going to build substantial housing that close to it, they have to provide this suitable alternative natural green space. We think that the proposal, well, we're not going to dwell on this tonight, but we think that the proposal they've come up with for the SAG is inadequate. Much of the pedestrian access will be waterlogged in winter. Therefore, they will probably lead to increased car journeys. There isn't a proper management plan for how this thing is going to be maintained and looked after. That's a national policy requirement, but it doesn't seem to be there in the application. It looks like a lash-up, frankly. It's something put together quite sort of casually, because they have to have one, but it's really not convincing. And then going back to the main site, I've also mentioned the threat to the ancient woodlands and the ancient veteran trees in the avenue and elsewhere. there's also a national requirement that if you're going to build in the Greenbelt, you have to have a 20% increase in biodiversity. It's called biodiversity net gain. Even if you factor in the SAG, where they claim there will be a biodiversity gain, they can't meet that 20% target across the two sites, across the main site and the SAG together. So again, we think on grounds of biodiversity, they fail. And finally, reason number 10, the government talks all the time about the importance of the local plan process, the importance of communities actually thinking about where development should take place in their area and having some confidence that decisions are taken on a rational basis. The government has said that one of the reasons it introduced the Greenbelt idea is because Greenbelt release in the past has been haphazard rather than strategic, and it wants to make it strategic. Well, we have a local plan, which is in the process of being updated. That is the context within which something of this scale should be assessed. This site should be considered alongside all the other potential sites across the plan area, which is currently Guildford Borough. And the sensitivity of the site should be weighed against other sites, and the sustainability of the site should be weighed against other sites. Now, all these things happened during the course of preparing the local plan that we currently have, and guess what? This piece of land was judged to be of sufficiently high sensitivity that it was not included in the local plan. The only reason it was in for a very short period of time in one of the earlier versions of the plan was because the developer offered to build a 7-form entry secondary school there, which was subsequently shown, again, thanks, tribute to Keith, who did a lot of work on this, was subsequently shown not to be necessary, and so they dropped it. They dropped it wasn't because you could build houses elsewhere, it was because the school that the developer was trying to hang the houses on was shown not to be necessary. So we have a plan, it's in process, and it should be allowed to run its course, and this site should be considered against all the other potential sites in the Guildford Borough. And we think this is actually fundamentally anti-democratic to try to get this one through as a speculative application outside of that local plan process. So, that's all I want to say. I've talked for more than I meant to about the sort of substance, if you like, of the objection. And as I say, this is developed on our website, so please go there if you'd like to see more. But we will also try to help you with it. And there are three ways you can object. One is just to go onto the Guildford Borough Council website, and you search and comment on a planning application, you put in the reference of this one, and then it allows you to submit your comment and you state whether you want to object or support. That's the easiest way to do it. But if you don't want to do that, or if you want to send a document, an attachment, with some photographs or whatever, you can also email it to them, and that's the email address, which again is on our website. Or if you really don't want to do either of those, and you want to send a hard copy, here's a piece of paper, it's got your name, address, and you sign it and date it, and you say whatever you want to about the application in the middle. And we won't write that for you, that we won't do a Yorkshire. It's up to you what you say, but we will happily post it for you or to hand deliver it for you to make sure it gets in. Okay, so finally, this is the last slide of the Vista here. It's important to object in your own words. I have seen one or two responses which are just a copy and paste of something on our website, which is, okay, it's an objection, but it's not original, it doesn't have the authenticity that you would have if you put it in drawing on your own experience. And it's also worth, as I said before, making clear you're objecting to both applications so that it counts on both pages. And all members of the household can object. It doesn't have to be one family member, so if there are 4 of you, 2 of you, whatever it is, you can both or all object. And again, it's worth doing that, saying slightly different things perhaps. You here, I mean, you're great. There's probably about well over 150 people here tonight. There are already, I think, 200 objections, if I remember rightly, on the site. If everyone here put in an objection, that would take it to 350. we'd love it to get to 500. I think if we had 500 objections to this proposal, it would put all the sort of yaw shout spam into context, really. So I think the message is, do your own, help your family to do it, get out and try to persuade 5 friends to do it as well, and so we can show that the community really does care about this. Right, that's it. I'm going to stop. I think that's the last one, Martin, isn't it? I'm going to stop there. And as I said before, what we thought we'd do now is have a little bit of a Q&A session, and we'll pass the answers to whoever's most appropriate to do it. And then, you know, there will also be an opportunity afterwards, if you don't want to ask a question now, to multiple people around the edge of the room at the end. Nick, would you mind standing up so people can see that